How to prove the identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, the mysterious creator of Bitcoin. To begin with, let's define the expected outcomes of an investigation into the origins of Bitcoin. The first thing is to draft a likely pre-Bitcoin CV and live while performing as Satoshi Nakamoto between 2008 and 2011. From the few breadcrumbs he either accidentally dropped or even intentionally deployed during his online interactions, we obtain cues about his likely education and career, his technical skill set, personality, and mindset. To complete the picture as much as possible, it is also worthwhile extrapolating on his post-Bitcoin activities, or what he is and was up to since burying his pseudonym. With this hypothetical, still sketchy profile at hand, we can plausibly debunk scams by applying a strict exclusion filter to self-claims or nominations. This way, we obtain definite clarity on who is not the creator of Bitcoin. What turns out to be technically impossible and arguably less relevant for any research bare of access to deep insider sources and intelligence material is to ultimately determine the formal identity of the true architect of Bitcoin. Even more, there's simply no final proof other than the control of private keys which are undisputably ascribed to him. Based on this, active doxing can easily and bluntly be denied by the target. Further severe challenges towards elucidating the origins of Bitcoin are rooted in the dichotomy between the real human and the online persona Satoshi Nakamoto. Even more, the strict limitation to digital and thus potentially forgeable evidence, the complete lack of audio-video records, DNA traces, or biophysical dirt, as well as the complete absence of credible witness accounts or smoking guns, add to the exceptional difficulty of this and any other search efforts. Even more, the mastermind of Bitcoin configured a well-orchestrated identity shield based on a palpable experience with operation security paired with meticulous, highly disciplined execution. For nowadays nearly 2 decades since his conception of Bitcoin in the mid-2000s, Satoshi Nakamoto proves to be psychologically extremely stable, demonstrating ostensibly uncompromisable, somewhat uncanny nerves of steel. Such extreme, long-term persistence in impeccably guarding a significant secret, despite the evident temptations of each individual stakeholder to fall over time for fame, fortune, and impact, make the frequently touted scenario of a cabal-like Team Satoshi highly unlikely. These first discoveries already substantiate that there neither is nor will be a direct silver bullet type of irrefutable evidence to ultimately reveal the civil identity of Satoshi Nakamoto, at least not based on information available in the public domain and not without his voluntary, or hopefully not coerced contribution. What we actually have at hand for an investigation is an assortment of indirect evidence composed of documents metadata with date and time, geotags and software used, online messages and emails with server timestamps, sender accounts and newsgroups, writing stylometry revealing typos and grammar, punctuation habits, English orthography such as British or US spelling, active vocabulary, tone of communications, idioms, jargon, and slang, as well as technical terms. In addition, we have Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper references featuring citations and also, quite tellingly, work he overlooked or even deliberately ignored. We can assess the findability and accessibility of his citations and check for their formal integrity and completeness. Coding signatures tell us about his preferred programming languages and software libraries. We can further draw conclusions from his coding style, structure, and comments, as well as file and function names. We can also derive Satoshi Nakamoto's project experience, for instance, in terms of his management style, organization, hierarchy, as well as his resolve for delivery. The observed activity patterns disclose his likely time zone, thus pointing to Satoshi Nakamoto's primary residence, and hourly, daily, and seasonal schedules might further indicate his job and employment status at the time. Overall, our systematic, multi-evidence supported analysis of the origins of Bitcoin is efficiently supported by a comprehensive and well-structured but unavoidably incomplete database of indirect evidence. Given the previously described severe challenges, we outline our investigative strategy for shedding light on the shadowy origins of Bitcoin. First, a database of indirect evidence, including all even remotely related material, is diligently collected, properly categorized, and systematically analyzed. These preliminary findings are ranked according to their relevance, credibility, and forgeability. Then a pool of about 100 Satoshi Nakamoto candidates is extracted from this vast assortment of information. The first filter considers that the creator of Bitcoin cannot have lunged out of nowhere without leaving traces on his pre-Bitcoin educational and career path. We therefore identify relevant ecosystems around organizations and in the wild to arrive at a markedly reduced list of potential stakeholders. Next, Occam's razor comes into play with the aim to substantially slash the pre-selected cohort down to about 1 to 5 individuals. In this effort, we filter out nominees with unresolvable contradictions to any hard facts and create the most reasonable scenario for each remaining candidate. Unavoidable knowledge gaps are bridged by the most plausible assumptions to carve out a handful of hot candidates who exhibit the simplest, most straightforward storyline. For interpreting the unsurprisingly contentious final result, keep in mind that Satoshi Nakamoto can only be one person. All other names have not been behind the architect of Bitcoin. Moreover, all nominations are easily deniable, especially by the true creator of the world's first and still dominant cryptocurrency. Such detailed analysis of all available evidence made it possible to draw a hierarchically structured chart of more or less plausible candidates for the creator of Bitcoin. We start with the usual suspects, which have been extensively covered in numerous videos, web pages, social media posts, and blogs. While they were undoubtedly key for paving the road towards Bitcoin, my comprehensive research concludes that none of them was directly involved in its creation. At the very bottom, we list the founders and OGs of cryptography and the cypherpunk scene. Then I drop a couple of names in first, second, third, and fourth layers. Finally, we reach the upper rank where several very credible Satoshi Nakamoto candidates can be found. Outside this chart, the only option is that the architect of Bitcoin was a Secret Service or corporately trained expert, and, less likely, an unlisted junior academic, college student, or an exceptionally gifted hobbyist. Full information and analysis of the content presented in this video, as well as detailed coverage of about 60 further candidates, I highly recommend my book Satoshi Nakamoto and the Origins of Bitcoin. It is available electronically and in printed form at Amazon and Shopify under the displayed links.